Hello, everyone. This is Ty, aka the Flip Man. Tonight's Flippinar. I'm glad everyone that has made it so far. We'll have more people to come on. But one of the strong points about me, I guess one of the positives, is that I'm punctual. So we're going to go ahead and ride on this, and people that join us will come on. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, we're in screen sharing mode. I'm assuming you all can see my white background with the logo, with the title and the subtitle. Wholesaling houses, no cash for credit, step by step. Yes, thank you, Don, for confirming that. Co-wholesaling, JB deals is a topic. It's something that I haven't done a lot of, but like many of the things in residential real estate, I have actually done. So that's going to be the topic for tonight. For those that have never been on one of these, there's a process that I go through to get to the subject of tonight. As always, we're going to have a question and answering period after we go through the topic and some more house cleaning. Also, don't let me forget about the free courses. Please don't let me forget to give those away. I don't think Darren is going to be on tonight. I haven't heard him say tonight. So please do not let me forget the free courses. Remind me if you have to often, because I will forget. Trust me, I will forget. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and, as I said, the topic tonight is going to be co-wholesaling, JV deals, and I'll get into my definition of it and the process that I've went by and what I would recommend. Obviously, there are a lot of ways to do things. So let's go ahead and start to go through the pages here. Just as a disclaimer, attorney recommends that we do this. You're not going to make $10,000 a month if you don't do anything. Most people know that, but we just have to say it. If you're not aware of me and somehow you stumbled onto this Flippinars, somebody may have recommended it, but I have a library of videos on YouTube that anyone can take advantage of. Free, 200. You won't believe it when you see all the information I provide. Pretty much everything you need to know about, not pretty much everything you need to know about wholesaling houses. You don't ever have to talk to me. They say I put my phone number out there. Most of you all know. Well, some of you all know. You call or text me, I respond. Or if you call me, I pick up. You call me, I'll call you back. Just the way it is. So I just wanted to make you aware of my YouTube channel, which is flipman.net. Also, my website is flipman.net, where you can access those exact videos. But you can also sign up for my coaching and courses there also. I wanted to mention the deals that we have available. A couple of students and I have some deals available on the commercial side of the game. And one of them is a Rite Aid in the state of Pennsylvania. We're paying a referral fee of $16,500 to anyone that provides a buyer. It's really that cut and dry. I'm not asking you for any money or anything. I'm just asking you for help on things that I don't personally like to do. We're working on finding buyers, and hopefully we will find before our contract ends on the property. But this is one of the deals we put on the contract with no money down. This is a $2 million property, $2.185 million. No money down, no earnest money on the contract. No person in between the seller and I, just the student and my name are on there as the buyers, and then the seller. That's real. So same thing with this property here, Family Dollar. $8,500. This one is in Ohio. We're paying a referral fee on this one of $8,500 for a buyer. On this Wendy's in the state of Tennessee, $11,500. We're paying for a buyer. You can gather the information as you see the website at the bottom there, triplenetcash.com, or some say NNN cash, but it's really just an acronym for triple net. Triplenetcash.com. Now you see that phone number there. You can call me on that, but I have my other number too. So this is more that other number there, just somewhat know where my leads are coming from and how effective they are. But this Wendy's property, understand you're not selling the Wendy's franchise, you're selling the property. Wendy's is leasing the property from the current owner, and we're just trying to find a different owner. It's really just that simple. So again, as I mentioned earlier, 2 free courses given away at the end of the Flippinar tonight. What do y'all think about the logo here, flipman.net? Is it better than what I had before? If you remember, you can place your comments there. Don't forget, if you need private money, service I've hooked up with Keith Yackey, privatemoneylist.net. You can go there. A lot of you all are here because you submitted your phone number through that site, and I text you, say, hey, come join the Flippinar. I text you a video about a student that spent $32,000 recently out of Baltimore. If you're interested in the commercial side of the game, similar to what you've seen on those deals that we have, referral, that's where they come from. My students and I put those deals together. I work with them directly if they want me to. I'm going to coach them regardless, but they normally want me to work directly with them. So if you're interested in that, you can go to flipthisbuilding.com and sign up and become a student on the commercial side of the game. It's more expensive than the wholesaling houses and apartments, but the paydays are bigger. You can just see from the referral fees that we're paying. Those are really nice assignment fees for housing, and these just the referral fees for the commercial. So those are the type of numbers we're playing with, that we're willing to pay that type of referral fee for a buyer. All right, my goal here tonight, whether you know a lot about real estate or if you don't know anything about real estate, the goal here tonight is to show you that there is an option out there to change your financial situation and change it quickly. And obviously, a lot of people have made their fortunes over the time of man that we've been on this planet through real estate, because either you have to have shelter to live, or shelter to provide for businesses and the services and products that they may offer. So what is wholesaling? And this is my, I guess, street version of it. And maybe the next Flippinar, I'll put up an actual definition there, technical, more dictionary or something like that, instead of me explaining the process. But here's a short version of it. Basically, what you're doing as a wholesaler is that you're identifying a great deal with an actual owner of a property. It can be residential or commercial, but for the sake of this Flippinar, we're going to say a house. You located a great deal. And how you locate that deal can come in a lot of ways. It can come through marketing and advertising, where people are calling you saying, hey, I got a house for sale, or you did it by research, or you found something online, however. But you and the seller talk, you negotiate a price that works based on where the property is located and the condition that it's in. Now, obviously, you have to know what's a deal and what's not a deal, because there's plenty of real estate out there for sale. It's not a deal as far as what's based on what we consider a deal in the wholesale world. But assuming that it is a deal, so the next step would be to place it on the contract. Once you have the property on the contract, now you have something of value that you're controlling for whatever 30 or 45-day period that you and the seller have agreed upon. Whether you have a buyer's list already or not, if you advertise that actual property and it's a deal, in most markets, you shouldn't have that property longer than a week if you're doing an effective amount of marketing or advertising the property. So assuming that you have a property in place, assuming you have a buyer in place at a higher price than the contract that you have with the seller. Just to use real numbers here. So you had a contract with the seller for $30,000, and the house would, well, just to sort of back up a little bit, the house in excellent condition, what we call ARV, after repair value, or simply put, what would the house appraise for in excellent condition? We'll say $100,000, but for whatever reason you got it under contract for $30,000. Okay, you advertise the property at $49,000. You have a buyer step to you and say, hey, I can't do 49, but I can do 44,000. All right, now, so you have contract A with the seller for 30,000 and contract B with the buyer for 44,000. So the next step is to set up a closing with either a title company and or a closing attorney. So when you close on the property, that's when everybody sits down and signs the necessary document to transfer the property over to the buyer. The seller will get their $30,000. You get the difference between $30,000 and $44,000, which is $14,000, and the buyer takes possession of the house. That's a wholesale transaction. Is this something that you should be doing? Well, I'm going to go through a couple of scenarios here. I'm not sure if you ran into this particular testimonial interview that I have on my channel on YouTube. Student in Memphis. He advertised on Craigslist. He was fortunate because I've never had any success doing that, finding sellers. Maybe I haven't put enough effort into it, but I think pretty much as soon as he put up an ad, he got a response with a potential deal. This couple, they were moving out of town, and they bought an investment property, and they needed to liquidate it fast. So they gave him a liquidated fast price. He placed a contract on the property with $10 earnest money. His take after everything was said and done was $6,440.40. Return on investment, it sounds ridiculous, but the numbers are what they are. It's just like this money fell out of the sky. Was 64,344% return. I don't know many businesses you can get that type of return, legal or illegal. All right, let's give another example. I just posted this particular interview on last night. Some of you all have already seen it. Well, a Baltimore student located a property, and he put up $1 earnest money, and the total deal was $32,000. He had a partner, so he had to split the deal, which is $16,000, but the total deal was for $32,000. The return on investment on that is $199,900. Percent. I mean percent. I said dollars. Percent. So that's basically infinite. You get the point here. The point is this something you need to be doing? I'll let you answer that for yourself. For those of you all there who don't know me and who I am and my little story and how I got involved in real estate and so on, for those of you that are here regularly, go to the bathroom or something. Give me about 10 minutes to go through this process or whatever. Then you may want to hear it again. I'm an entrepreneur first. I'm not sure where the bug came from in my early 20s when I was in college. I'm not one of those people where I've been selling lemonade since I was 8, 9 years old. Something just got into me in my early 20s when I was in college. I was in college, and I was one of those people that I knew that college was not going to provide the income that I wanted, especially the degrees that I was pursuing. So with that being said, I still finished college, more so to put a smile on my mom's face than to actually help me as an individual as far as financially or building a life for myself and those that I care about. But I wouldn't give anything for the time I spent in college because it helped me grow up as a man. But while I was in college, I had this brilliant idea that I was going to take my student loan money and I was going to buy used cars and sell them and become a millionaire. Okay, I actually got a dealer's license and started going to dealer's auction. I used to love it. Going, I think it was every Wednesday or Thursday. I can't remember the date. It's been a long time ago, but used to love it. Had my $3,000 or $4,000 in hand, and I would go out there, and they had it's just a huge facility. You know, just hundreds, but probably a couple of thousand cars out there at once. And they had like an actual strip where you could test drive the cars. Those cars, I don't care if the car was 10 years old, it would look like it was off the showroom floor. It may have 180,000 miles on it, but it'll look brand new. That's the problem. They will look brand new, but they'll be pieces of junk. And if you're not mechanically inclined, you would easily get your hat handed to you, which I did. And so I got out of that, obviously, in 1995. Went to Daytona Beach for Black College spring break or whatever they used to call it back then. And one of my brother's friends met us. He was from Orlando. He met us up there, and he had started a mobile car wash, and said he had did 6 figures. So hey, I couldn't wait to get back to Birmingham to buy me a van, a water tank, and a pressure washer, and start to make it happen. I did just that. That's the type of person I am. Found out about it one week. I had a little money from same thing, resources from my student loans or whatever. I had a little money. I took action. I didn't debate on it. I didn't research it. I didn't do all of that. You know, people say I've been looking at this for 2 years. You know, I don't get that. You know, but it is what it is. Maybe that's why I wasn't successful with it. So, long story short, as long as there was summer, 95, 100 degrees, which is possible here in the South, I was fine. I can handle that. But when we moved on into October, November, just like it is now, it's in the 30s. Not going to happen. You know, I hate cold weather. I hate cold weather. It would take a lot of money for me to live in an area where it's cold most of the time. Not hating on or downplaying where some people are. It would be very difficult, very difficult. So I knew I couldn't do that because you can't run a business that's seasonal like that. There are some seasonal businesses, but for what I was trying to do, it wasn't going to work. So I always was thinking of crazy ideas or things I wanted to do or what I thought was going to be a good service or product. I always look for things that, you know, wouldn't cost that much money, but you could make money. Not a lot of things out there like that, but they do exist if you got some creativity and take action. But I could never figure anything out like that. So I got into some people convinced me to get into some network marketing. Problem with that is I'm not a salesperson. You have to somewhat be a salesperson, but get other people to believe what you believe. I know it may seem like I'm like that, but I'm really not. I just tell you information. I just give you information from experience that I have, but a lot of people are interested in that experience. So I don't feel like I'm selling when I talk about real estate and those stuff that I've done or whatever. So, but just when you start talking about network marketing, that's a form of sale. You got to convince the people what you believe, and I'm not good at that. You know, I'm just not. Now, if I can put something out there and people contact me or whatever, hey, I can handle that. But if I have to reach out to you to make business happen, it's not going to happen. That's part of the reason why I'm paying hefty bounties on these commercial properties, because that's grunt work. You know, I can find the deals, structure them, negotiate all that stuff, but getting out there, just putting them out there because you really don't want to advertise those, just go crazy advertising. That's why I don't have the addresses on the actual offering memorandums or the flyers. I don't know why they call them offering memorandums, but really just a flyer with the information. So I would rather let people that are good at reaching out, networking, prospecting, and I just give us some of the money. So, but anyway, fast forward 2002, October 2002. My friend, he and his now wife were going to school to become realtors. And the guy that normally taught the real estate course, I'm assuming you guys can still hear me. Say yes. Somebody say yes. But the guy that was teaching the real estate course was absent. And the guy that substituted for him, he didn't talk about being a real estate agent. He talked about being a real estate investor and creative ways of real estate investing with no money down. So my friend, he knew I was an entrepreneur, so he mentioned some of the things. He mentioned some of the things that the guy was talking about. It was interesting, but I didn't act on it. All right, because I still didn't. I just didn't. I don't know why I didn't. So fast forward a couple of months later, I was at my mom's house for Christmas. It was 2 days after Christmas. I was up early waiting on her to prepare breakfast. which were homemade biscuits with syrup, my favorite. And not healthy, but it's still my favorite. And I was up and I was watching TV, and I stumbled across one of Carlton Sheets' No Money Down infomercials, which, we had all seen them over the years. You don't see them now, but, back in the 90s, I guess the 80s, they were on every Saturday and Sunday morning, all, for 2 or 3 hours. You just changed channel and it was somewhere else. So I caught it about halfway through one of the infomercials, and I said, let me find one from beginning to end, which they didn't tell you anything. It just, I made $10,000. Carlton helped me make this, helped me make that. But it really didn't tell you how they made the money. So at that time, my mom didn't have internet. So when I waited till I got back to Birmingham, and I went to this message board that I used to frequent, it was 8blake.net, and it was entrepreneur message board, online entrepreneur message board. And I posted a question: does Carlton Sheets program really work? Only one person replied, yes, it does, but Ron LeGrand's course is better. So I did a search, found Ron's website. He had a bundle of courses rolled into one for like $1,500. A lot of money. I didn't have that at the time. And so found another option on the website where they had a condensed version of everything for $69.99 with shipping $80. I got that. It was in cassette form. And all it was just teasers. Great. It was a great promotional product because it really made you feel like you could do this, but it wasn't enough information that you could just go out and do it, especially with someone like me that didn't know anything about real estate. So from there, I had made up my mind that if I had to get a second job, I'm going to save that $1,500 and buy the bundle of courses. So a couple of days later, I thought about eBay. I said, let me do a search on his name and see if there are any auctions out there on his information, on his courses. And so there was. And so I bid it on the auction, lost the auction. But back then, I guess sellers could contact bidders. And the guy emailed me and asked me would I be interested in buying a burnt copy, or in the hood we call it a bootleg copy of the course. And so we agreed upon $400. Got the course. It was like Christmas. And it took me about 3 weeks to go through all of it because it was wholesaling houses. I'm assuming y'all can still see my screen. I just got a notification. It was wholesaling houses, retailing houses, which is basically buying, fixing, and flipping, for sale by owner, owner financing, lease options. So I listened to it all. I didn't know I didn't supposed to listen to, but what appealed to me, which would only probably have been wholesaling at that time, maybe lease options. And so I was just on information overload. But if I didn't get anything out of it, two things stuck. Wholesaling stuck out to me, and I knew I needed to get my phone ringing, which was going to be right down my alley because I didn't want to reach out to people for business. I wanted people to put the advertisement out there and let people contact me if they need what I had to offer, which was buying houses. So Bandit signs attracted me. So I bought a set of Bandit signs. I overpaid for them. I bought 50 signs, spent $250 on those. I didn't know any better. You can get a lot better deal than that now. Obviously, you can get 250 signs for that amount of money. But I didn't know any better. So I put them out on a Sunday morning, started getting calls that Monday. The first two calls were actually deals. The first call was a seller that it was going to be a lease option opportunity. I'll tell you about that deal, which eventually blew up in my face. Put the deal on the contract, explained to him how the lease option was going to work, that I was going to do a lease with an option to purchase with him and then find a tenant buyer. They was going to give me a down payment. I'll make a payment to him and I'll get a little extra over. And at some point, she's going to cash him out of the deal. He was fine with that because he couldn't afford the payments on the house anymore. He lived somewhere else. His mom left him the house. He just needed a solution. So it appeared that we were on the same page. All right, I advertised the property. Lady stepped forward. I met her at an old Charlie's that's not there on Center Point Parkway in Birmingham. If you ever see this or you're on here now, you know anything about the ham. She gave me $5,000 sitting there about this time one evening. And I just come believe, man, this stuff, it may even actually work. So the guy that owned the property was a handyman and it needs some repairs and she wanted some stuff done. So I said, well, I'll just let Mr. Such and Such take care of that for you. And so they were supposed to meet. So in that time frame, a friend of mine that I worked with when I was working a job, I was working at Bell South, which is now AT&T. He did mortgages on the side. So I was just barter, just trying to help a friend, somebody I was doing business with the real estate. And so my friend mentioned, say, hey, yeah, Ty, I found somebody to move in your house. The lady already has given him $5,000. The seller felt that I should have given him half of that money. He never conveyed that to me. So when the lady was supposed to meet him at the house so they could go over what repairs he would do in the house for her, he came over there with a just horrible attitude, told the lady to get off his property. Tyrone didn't own it. And, he's going to call the police. So the lady called me just crying, hysterical. And I asked her, where was she right now? And I would bring her her money because she had thought she had got scammed. And so I had already spent $700 of it. So I had to come back up with that. And at that time, I really wasn't making no money now. So I had to come up with that $700. So anyway, so I met the lady, gave her her money. So I called the owner, and he and I had a heated dispute, and long story short, he told me if he ever see me again, it wouldn't be pretty. But I hope, thankfully, I haven't seen it. So anyway, that was 14 years ago. So anyway, the second call was two sisters. This is what I'm talking about, tired landlords. Their mom died, left them a house. They had, a lot of people. We're not going to sell mama house. We had too many members there. We'll just rent it out to some needy family members. And of course, their family members are not going to pay you. So they got tired of going back and forth with that, fixing the house, people not paying them, fixing the house, paying taxes. So they called me. We agreed upon $20,000. I showed up at their house in my 1985 Toyota Celica white convertible. It was 2003, so the car is 18 years old, if my math is correct. And they thought I had They thought I had the money with me, on me, 20 grand on me. I said, no, it didn't work like that. I told them we had to go through a process. So they signed the agreement. I advertised the property, and in the newspapers, that's not effective at all now. I advertised the property in the newspaper, and this realtor called me, told me he had a client that would buy the property for $25,000. So I had it under contract with $20,000. So I explained to the realtor, hey, I'm wholesaling this, man. So blah, blah, blah. I got under contract 20. Said, well, in order for us to do this deal, I need half of that. I didn't know any better. I probably wouldn't have even done that, because he hustled me. But anyway, I didn't know any better, so it didn't matter. I don't care if people make money, but his client is going to pay him. I shouldn't have to pay him also, but that's how realtors are. So anyway, especially if you don't know any better. And so I met these guys in a parking lot, in a shopping center parking lot. They gave me $500. $500 earnest money. We signed an agreement. A week or so later, we met at their attorney's office. I didn't know what was going on, really. The girlfriend that I had at the time said, you think you ought to wear a suit? I said, nah, I don't think I have to do that because those guys showed up in tank tops and flip-flops. I don't think so. And so anyway, we closed on the property, picked up my $2,500 check. It's not a lot of money, but it is a lot of money. For me, it might as well have been $250,000 because number one, I seen that it worked. The other thing is I had failed at so many things before that, that was it. So over the next 12 months, I did 10 deals. I probably could have quit then my job, but I had done that before a couple of years before that and nearly starved to death. And so, I worked at my job 3 years before I quit, so I just came in one day and the supervisor said something to me that I didn't like, and I reported out for the next 2 weeks. Went up there on a Sunday on April 30th, turned in my 2 weeks notice. I had already reported out, so I just turned in my resignation. And so I put one on the clerk's desk, supervisor's desk, and hey, May 1st, officially 2006, I dropped the mic on my job. That's been 10 plus years ago now, so I hadn't looked back. Been fortunate enough to still be able to eat and keep the lights on. But anyway, so as I mentioned, I failed a lot of things. from a small town, less than 1,000 people, no smarter than you are, from Bama. Purpose of me saying all of that is that if I can do this, you can do this. It's all about action. It's all about action. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. I still make them today. It's just the mistakes should be a lot less than your successes. You're not going to ever know everything. It's just not possible. I still learn stuff now. Students bring stuff to me. I had never even looked at it the way they look at it. You know what I'm saying? They may have never even done a deal, but I know something good when I hear it or it can be useful. So what I discovered in the 13 years, I was 14 now, I'll change that, is that there's a way to cheat, and wholesaling is the way to do that. But before we get to that point, most people think they need a ton of money. They think they need to have a real estate license. You don't. If you want one, that's fine. That's on you. But you don't need one to do this biz. Books are fine. I'm not a reader. There are very few books that are not going to be upsells. Going to be very few books that are going to go into detail on what you actually need to do. And that still will depend on your level of what you understand about it already. Because a lot of the stuff that I know in commercial real estate is because of what I know in houses and just how to put deals together. I just needed to educate myself on the what makes a deal and what's not a deal, what's important to the buyer themselves, and then you can figure out how to make the money. You found out where the money is, and then obviously where it's going, you stand in the middle. I didn't come up with that, but I like it. But taking pointless business classes in college, I did have a BA, a business administration minor for the history. As a matter of fact, my major is history. I think it's African American. I don't even remember. African American history. What am I going to do with that? Anyway, all of us had went to seminars. Even after I was making money, I was still going to seminars because I was looking not to really sign up or anything, and not really the process of them putting the deals together, because that's pretty much the same. But I was always looking for different ways to find more leads, to find more deals. That was my interest. But I eventually realized that there was nothing new under the sun. Now, there's a lot of technology that has changed since I got into it 14 years ago. But at the end of the day, it's still the same as far as putting an actual deal together. And like I said earlier, that when I first got started, I was on information overload. That was part of what Vic explained on the interview we did. The guy that spent the $32,000 in Baltimore. That I was asking why you didn't call me for this or that. He said, man, I just had I had so many mentors and stuff or whatever, and you probably don't want I could really deal with at any time. He said, I just didn't. So, but anyway, just on information overload, just too much coming at you. So, with all of that being said, I want to mention again, don't let me forget about the 2 free courses I'll give away at the end of the question and answer period of the Flippinar. So let's get into it. Co-wholesaling and JV deals. All right, so you all still with me, right? Yes. Okay. All right. Good. All right. Co-wholesaling. What is it? All right. You're a wholesaler and Bobby is a wholesaler, whether you all know each other or not. One of you all have a deal in the contract. The other possibly has a buyer, or the one that has a contract on the property, he's looking for a buyer and wants to go through you. All right, flipped it. And you have it under contract and you're trying to get someone to help you find a buyer. I've done these, but I'm not as open to do them, but I want to talk about it. I try to bring stuff to you, whether I actually do a lot of it or not. I've done it, but it may be an avenue that a lot of people that can get into and maybe get their feet wet, make a little money, and then you choose. But I'm all about control and the less people that we have in the deal, the easier it is, or the less complicated the deal will be. All right. So the first thing, like I said, is a wholesaler contacts you, and we'll just go with this, that you have a property. Okay. Obviously, that's, in my opinion, that's the best position to be in. So the first thing most of them want to know, they want to know how they're going to get paid if they release this buyer to you. Now, I'm willing to do 50-50 in a lot of cases, or I'll give them the option. I'll say we can do 50-50, or I give you a price. And I don't care what you make over top of that. But if we do it that way, if I give him a price, then we're going to have to put it on the contract. And if we do that, I'm treating him just like a buyer, just like he's a cash buyer. I need $500, probably $1,000 earnest money. In order for me to lock my property up with someone, I'm going to need that $1,000 non-refundable earnest money, especially with a wholesaler. It's definitely going to be non-refundable if I can produce a clear title. He ain't getting that back. So that's if I give him a price that's higher than my price. Now, we're just going to split. I tell him, hey, I got in the contract for $25,000. He said, well, I got somebody that'll probably pay about $34,000 for it. I said, well, we'll just split it 50-50. That's $9,000. We'll just both make $4,500. All right. So it'll be up to him on how he wants to paper up on that. Now, I normally don't have anything in place because, especially if I got it under contract, it's up to you. If you don't trust me, then I totally understand. Send me something. Let me look at it. I tell people, some of you have never heard me say that. And I'll look at it. If I'm comfortable with it, I'll sign it, and we'll go from there. But most of the ones that I've done, we didn't have anything in place. I just paid them. And I don't mind paying them 50% of the deal. The way I look at it is I probably didn't even know the buyer that they know. And that he paid me, or I paid him, however you want to look at it, to have access to that buyer now, because once we sit down at the closing table, I'm going to get his contact information. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I'm not tired, but same thing though. If I bring a buyer to the table, I understand that a wholesaler is going to have an opportunity to get his contact information. Those buyers are not mine exclusive. I had a lady actually tell me that any deal that buyer does, she should get paid off of it. I said, I don't do business like that because I won't require the same thing of you. Oh, we didn't do business. She refused to do business with me. That was fine. It didn't make any difference. But it is what it is. So I'm not going to do something that especially when I'm talking about we're on the same level as wholesaling position, that I wouldn't accept myself, is what I'm trying to say. So the other side of it is that you see a property advertised, you just from the ad, you probably know it's a wholesale deal. You contact them because you may have a buyer ready to go on something like that. And then it becomes you're somewhat in their ballpark and what their requirements are for you to do a deal. Again, it's still going to be up to you on how you control the deal. And his motivation, he could be just like a motivated seller because his time is running out. So he may be apt to do it the way you want to do it. But the main thing is just ensuring that your name is on documents, especially when you're producing a buyer. I would probably just go ahead and do a contract with that wholesaler at a price, and then whatever I make over that. That's probably the way I would do it. I wouldn't sign any JV agreement stuff. I guess it could be presented or whatever, but we need a purchase and sales agreement with my name and my buyer's name on it at some point, and then I'll sign a purchase and sales agreement with the wholesaler. We still can work those numbers out. That is 50-50, but that's the best way to ensure. And you can only do this stuff when cash is involved. This type of stuff where you can have double assignments for one property or whatever. So at the end of the day, okay, so once you get past that point and a wholesaler's contacted you, we'll just go with that for right now. You still have to analyze the deal. Now, sometimes a lot of guys will have properties under contract and it's not an actual deal. That's why they're having trouble moving it. Now, sometimes they'll have a smoking deal and just don't know how to move it. I think I heard someone say some people know how to find great deals, but don't know how to move. Don't know how to get a buyer for them. And some people know how to find buyers, but don't know how to find deals for them. So it could be one of those situations, and you have an opportunity because you do have buyers, you do know how to move properties, and you just take advantage of it. Now, as far as when you start talking about virtual wholesaling, if you're going to virtual wholesale, now that's the way to go, in my opinion, because now you have someone on the ground and you can produce a buyer, whether it's locally there or out of town. Then now you have someone on the ground that can keep the seller and the buyer separate. That's the biggest hurdle with virtual wholesaling. That I know a lot of people say it's easy and all this stuff, but trust me, that's always your biggest hurdle with a wholesale deal. Once you have an actual property on the contract and you have a buyer interested, is trying to coordinate and making sure the deal doesn't go south because the seller or the buyer, normally it's going to be the seller side, doesn't understand the process, which they don't need to, because they're going to get what they're supposed to, and it just can be confusing. With that being said, so analyzing the deal, hopefully the reason that they haven't sold it is because they don't know how to find a buyer. That's what you're hoping for after you look at the numbers, because the numbers are going to be what they are, because you can put a ton of properties on the contract, but for cash buyers to show up and pay for it, it just needs to simply be a no-brainer of a deal. You know, that's I don't care what level of it that you're in, it has to be a no-brainer of a deal. Now, sometimes you'll struggle to move a property, and you only need one person. I've had that to happen a lot to me. Out of all the properties I did, I only had one person to actually make an offer. I've had people to look at a lot of property and no offers ever come through. I got one right now. I probably get 2 or 3 calls a day on it, and nobody calls me back to make offers on it once they go out there and see it. So, and I don't have much room to go on it, but that's the way it is sometimes, or whatever. And then other properties, I think it shouldn't be that great deal, and hey, I get a buyer the next day. It's just some of it is no rhyme or reason on it sometimes. So we can go back, when I say control or not, we can go back to what's your position? Are you the one with the property on the contract, or you're the one that's contacting the wholesaler and he has the control? So I'm big on that. I'll walk in a minute if I don't have a certain level of control over a particular deal. People call, and I had to learn this the hard way. So guys, you tap into my mistakes when I'm talking, and or especially when I'm coaching you. You're tapping into my mistakes that I advise you not to make the same mistakes. I don't know everything. I made a lot of mistakes, and I can tell you what not to do in a lot of situations. I can tell you what to do also, but what not to do. And when people call me, you can only imagine the number of calls I get. I get all kind of calls, and I welcome them all or whatever. But I'm like anyone else. I have my good days and bad days or whatever. But I get people calling me, and they say, well, I got a property and blah, blah, blah. And I don't do a lot of that because I can get wore out there. Just not enough time in the day. So I try to stay consistent, but I do listen to people or whatever. But the thing is, a lot of times they don't even have the property on the contract, or they're going out with my partner or somebody. Nah, I don't. You're already about to try to interject me into it. And if you're not dealing directly with the seller of the property, I'm normally not going to be interested. I'm just not. Or the broker. I can understand they got a broker. That's the commercial side of it. You're probably rarely going to deal with the seller. It's always going to be a broker. But I'm talking about where, it's you, then somebody else, maybe the broker, then the seller. Or it's you, somebody else, and then the seller. That's too many people for me. It needs to be you. I have it on the contract, and that's it. And that now I still may not be interested because of if it's houses, but because it just spread me too thin. Because if I knew you knew what a deal was, then I'd be a fool to turn it down if you're calling me out of the blue, say, hey, can you help me? but I know a lot of times people don't know what a deal is, because it's easy to get properties on the contract, but is it a deal or not? So we get to the paperwork, which I somewhat already have went through that. It just depends on what your position is as far as the paperwork. Again, I like purchase and sales agreements. These referral contracts, these JV contracts, all that stuff, guys, it really, at the end of the day, they really don't mean anything, because you're not an agent. See, you're now acting in that role of a real estate agent because you don't own the property. But if you interject with a purchase and sales agreement, that gives you some interest within the deal. That's why if I'm going to do any type of wholesale to wholesaler, I got to be on a purchase and sales agreement. So when people contact me about these properties that we're marketing, and I just, I'll tell you, and some of you may be on the call, I don't have anything that I can send you, but if you got something, I'll take a look at it. If I'm comfortable with it, I'll sign it. Most time it's nothing but, 2 or 3 sentences. And I'll pay them if they find a buyer, I'll sign that, whatever. But I'm going to pay you. I'm going to pay you because if you're that good, and I know some scoundrels out here, but I don't know why someone would do this. If you could find a buyer for me for a multi-million-dollar property or a high 6-figure property, and I don't pay you, that is stupid. You've shown me a lot. Obviously, I've made some money for you to produce a buyer. I want you to go out there to do it again. And the only way you're going to go out there and do it again for me or whoever is that I pay you. That just makes sense. But, I guess it's just people out there just, man, I don't get that. Okay. As I said, with buyers, depending on what side of it you're on, if you have a property under contract and a wholesaler wants to bring you a buyer, hey, I'm willing to work with them. You know what I'm saying? We can discuss the numbers on how and what everybody's going to be both of us will be comfortable with getting paid. But I look at it, hey, it's going to probably be a buyer that I'm not aware of. Or if on the flip side of it, if a wholesaler has a property and he reaches out to me and say, hey, you got a buyer for this property, I look at the numbers. Yeah, if I got a buyer, bring it to the table. But I'm comfortable with now that wholesaler being able to use that buyer. They don't belong to me. These people go wherever they can find a deal. So how do you get paid? It goes back to the paperwork. I want to be in the position where I'm on. If I'm in the wholesale position where it's my property, obviously I'm already there because I have a contract with the seller. But if I'm producing my buyer, I'm going to be on a purchase and sales agreement with my buyer. That's the only way that I'm going to do it. And I would strongly suggest that you do the same thing. So again, it may be a situation when you go to close it, it may be 2 assignment fees paid, but it's cash, so it's not going to make a big deal at all. If they're going to do the deal, how many people they pay as far as assignment fees, it will not matter. So I hope this is my thinking on it. It still boils down to control, depending on what side of it you're on, whether you have a property under contract or if you're trying to produce a buyer for a wholesaler that has it under contract. I want to be on a purchase and sales agreement with either a seller or a purchase and sales agreement with the buyer. And then if me and the wholesaler need to sign a purchase and sales agreement to commence our deal, then that's how it will be done. But that's the only way I'm going to do it. Now, the other ways out there, people do it or whatever, obviously, but that's the way I'm going to do it. So this is a way that you can virtual wholesale, but obviously you got to bring something to the table, either the deal and or when I say the deal, the seller, or you bring a buyer to the table. If you're going to virtual wholesale, I would recommend, well, I guess it really doesn't matter. You could be on both sides of it, but it's the reason that co-wholesaling will work with virtual wholesaling is because you have boots on the ground. So that's the way you virtual wholesale if you're going to do. You got to have boots on the ground in some form of format. You can try using real estate agents, but they're so tough to deal with. So let's get to some actual numbers and what this can do for you financially. And most people, whether you have financial troubles or not, it seems like we never have enough money. So let's just break it down and just to some conservative numbers, 3 to 5 deals per month. I'm assuming you guys are still with me. Okay. All right. If you want to do 3 to 5 deals per month, the numbers are easy for me. You need to be talking to 3 to 5 people per day. That's over a 30-day period. You're tired as a wholesaler, but in my mind, I'm an advertiser / marketing firm. Cause I got to get up and market. I'm slacking right now. I need to get some stuff going right now because my calls are down. So flip man, if the so-called flip man don't do what he's supposed to do, he's not gonna do deals either. And I got some stuff pending or whatever, but my calls are down. So I got to get out there and make it happen in some form or fashion. So let's just break it down. If you do 1 deal per month and you average $5,000 to $7,000 per deal, that's going to probably be about the lowest it'll go for most markets, between $5,000 to $7,000. You're out in Southern California, Bay Area, New York City, maybe South Florida. Yours may range from 15 to 25,000 on average. You know what I'm saying? But for most people, 5 to 7. Sometimes it's going to be a lot bigger, be a little less. But but we'll just do it on these conservative numbers. So 5 to 7,000 per deal. So you do 1 deal a month, 1 deal per month, right? That's 12 deals per year. So that ranges from $60,000 to $84,000 per year. That normally will change most people's financial situation, whether you're already making that type of money or not. Let's do 2 deals per month, $5,000 to $7,000 per deal. That's 24 deals in a year. That's $120,000 to $168,000 a year. That changes the situation even more. Let's get a little bit more excited about it. Say 5 deals per month, averaging $5,000 to $7,000 per deal. That's 60 deals in a year. That's $300,000 to $420,000 a year. They know your name at the bank. Hello, Mr. Taylor. How are you doing today? Doing great. How are you? Remind me again, the 2 free courses, no coaching that I'll give away at the end. We're going to go into the question and answer, but let me do a little house cleaning. You can get proof of funds at realpof.com. privatemoneylist.net. You can get over 400 private money lenders, 400 cash buyers addresses in different markets around the country. And if you don't win the 2 courses, this is a special that I'll probably run this tonight. But you can get, I'm separating the courses, or you can get them both together. If you only need wholesaling houses, just the course, no coaching, you can get that just for 1 payment of $197. If you want the wholesaling apartments course, 1 payment of $197. Or if you want to do both of them, you can get both of them for $297. All right, you can get that at theflipman.com. No coaching though. So you save $97 if you want both of them by taking advantage of the $297 offer. But if you just want one of them, just $197 for the one that you want. Okay, so let's get over here back to my screen and stop sharing. And we will entertain some calls. Darren is not on here. That's not. But be happy to take some questions now. Any questions? What does a typical day look like for you as a full-time wholesaler? Generally, what I do, um, as I was just mentioning, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, let me just say that, is that I'm going to either be putting together a direct mail campaign. I'll spend a couple hours on that, and or doing some bandit sign. I still do my own bandit sign because I'm not satisfied when I paid people to do it in the past. And plus, it's a way of keeping me a little humble, no matter how much money I may put in my pocket. But I slack on that because I just have so much other stuff going as far as the commercial. I also spend a lot of time dealing with the commercial side of it, whether it's me providing support on deals or me looking for deals. But I spend a lot of time on that. So I spend a lot, so it just a vary depending on the day as far as what's a typical day for me. Someone says, is it always 50 for JVs? Is everything negotiable? But normally that's what I want to go with because that's what I'm willing to pay someone. So that's what I'm willing to work for also if I'm providing a buyer. All right, someone said, what is the process on how long you keep the bandit signs up and when do you take them down? I never take them down. There's no reason to put them up if you take them down. The only way you're going to get the response that you need is that they stay up. Now, if you're in a market where they just not going to stay up, and you do have to take them down, or let me put it like this: if you can put them up, but they take them down, I would just be a weekend bandit. Weekend warrior. So over time, people will get used to seeing them on the weekend, and you'll probably eventually start receiving calls. But you may have to go through a couple of orders. But I would be putting them out, especially if you don't see them anywhere. So that means people are not used to seeing them, so that you're going to start to receive some calls at some point. All right, so on the JB deal, you're saying you would actually have three contracts working? Yes. Depending on what side. Well, three contracts in the sense that I'm going to probably be on two of the contracts. Whether it's me and the seller and the wholesaler, or me and the buyer and the wholesaler, but just still three contracts at some point. How do you keep the seller buyer from knowing you offered the buyer a higher price? Well, that's part of what I was talking about with virtual wholesaling, because most buyers are not going to buy without seeing the property. And a lot of times, I know a lot of, if you're virtual wholesale, the only person going to be able to show it is the seller. So you're going to have somebody on the ground to keep them apart, from discussing pricing, what's going on. But you can be transparent with your buyer, but they will eventually know at closing because I do assignments, so it's right there in the paperwork. But before then, they don't know. That's common. They don't know. Do you give a copy of the contract to the seller for their records after selling the deal? The only contract that they need is between them and the wholesaler. Anything else is not of any use to them. Are there certain areas you target for putting up bandit signs? If you've never done it before, what I always recommend to my students is putting them up in areas where they already exist. Obviously, you have the idea that, hey, I don't see any in this area, I'm gonna put some up, but normally it's already been tested, and bandit signs are not new at all. And so normally you're going to be wasting your time and money, but you can always test. You just never know. You can always test, but that's normally how it works. Have you had a Have you had a deal where um I'm not sure about the question, but have you had a deal made a deal where another wholesaler on the opposite end? I assume you should have ever been involved with where another wholesaler has been involved. Yeah, if that's what you're asking, yes, I have. If you don't have a buyer, if you don't have a buyers list yet, what would be the steps to get your wholesale deal sold? You just advertise it. That's all you have to do. It's not hard to give away money. Just advertise it. Craigslist, Zillow, Bandit signs in the area, handwritten signs. Just advertise it. If it's a deal, people are going to call you. That's how you build your list. You may have 10 people call you. You can only sell it to one. The other nine, you're going to keep their information for future deals. But that's how you that's how you move your deals. That's how you do it. I'm going to share my screen again here. I want to just make sure you have this reminder. Um, just 1 second, guys. I'm trying. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right. So, what was the last question? Let me see here. Let's see. If you don't, yeah, but I was saying about the buyers, but that's how you build a buyers list. All right. How did you manage working a job in wholesaling when you first began? What did that look like? At the time, I had a job where when I worked at Bell South, I worked a split shift. We used to go in at 7 a.m., leave at 11:30, and come back at 3 up until I think 6. So it was like a 3 to 4 hour window there. So I used to get a lot of stuff done there. But on the days that even when I worked 7 to 3 or 8 to 4 or 8 to 5, whatever it was, I just made stuff happen. Now when time changes, when you have more longer daylight hours, when it gets dark, I know in the central time zone, when it gets dark at 7:45, 8 o'clock, I may get off work at 4. Still 4 hours of daylight. You get a lot of things done. I just made it happen. Once I started making money, we could change shifts with people. Hey, people used to beg me because I would pay $100 just to change a shift with someone. I would pay $100 to go pick up 6,000. You know what I'm saying? So I just made it work. You just make it work. It's just all about time management. You may have to do everything on the weekend or your days off. Schedule looking at because whenever you're looking at properties, you may have 100 people call you, or if you're doing what you need to be doing correctly, and you may only go look at 5 to 7 of those properties out of 100 people that called you. But I'm not going to go look at something unless there's a deal over the phone as far as the price or close to it. All right. All right. Someone said, "What would you write on that small banner sign to catch someone's attention fast to sell your wholesale deal? House for sale, probably being red. 17,000 cash, and then my phone number. That's it. You don't really have that much room, and it's very important that you use the right markers. Does your course cover lease options? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Don't mention anything about it. So totally different ball game. What's your experience with probate properties? I think I'm going through a situation with that right now. I don't know if we're gonna, it'll be a while before we close that deal. There's nothing I seek out. Whenever you use absentee list, for me, it targets everything: probates, landlords, out of town owners, divorce. It tackles all types of motivations when you do direct mail with motive. So I don't specifically target probate. If it comes my way through my marketing efforts, then I'll work it. That's me. But no, there's a niche there. Out of all these deals you made, what is the worst got sold? And if you remember, how much did it sell for? I'm not sure about the question. You mean the least amount I've ever made on a deal? If you could be a little bit more clear, Abana, I think that's where his name is pronounced. Uh, do you have a sale on wholesaling with coaching? Not currently. I don't, Ty. Oh, the least I've ever made is $500. 500 big ones. But you can see it here on the screen. I'm assuming the screen is still showing. You can get the wholesaling houses for the 197, wholesaling apartments for 197, or you get both for 297, no coaching. That is available. Any more questions? Or you are, unless you guys are ready for the free giveaways. Okay, people say they're ready, so we'll roll we'll roll with it then, man. All right. So let me go through the little deal we got here to do that with. All right. Now, whenever I'm going to do the phone number first. Whenever um, I'm gonna call out the last four of your number. If you'll just text me, and if you'll just text me and with your name, then I'll give you instructions on how to get it. All right. Let's see here. All right. This is exciting. Um, let's go with last four digits 4977. So text me at 205 492 3425. 205 492 3425. And the last four digits of their number is 4977. All right, let me get the one with the name. All right, let me see here what it's going to spit out for us. All right, Leticia Knight, text me. Well, I'll tell you what, Leticia, what's the last four of your number, and then text me from that number at 205 492 3425. So Leticia, I'm waiting on a response, darling. But I guess that'll do it. I'll wait on her response, but that'll do it um, for tonight. I hope um, everyone enjoyed the info. And again, you can take advantage of the course option, the special at theflipman.com. Always remember the YouTube channel. If you need coaching with that, you can go to flipman.net. Tell friends, family, share it. I'll have a repost of this later on tonight, no later than tomorrow. But I really appreciate it. That hopefully this helps. As long as you all are showing up, I'll try my best to continue to do it. Love, man, and I'll see you on the flip side. Thanks, guys.